The sky turned red as the first blast hit the valley. Birds scattered into the air, and the mountain shook beneath Ethan's feet. He dropped behind a rock and held his breath. Dust rose around him. The sound of war had come fast, no warning. No message, just fire from above. Ethan had only arrived on this planet 3 days ago. He was a mechanic, not a soldier. The human outpost had sent him to fix the terraforming station. It was a quiet mission, just tools, wires, and long walks. Across green hills. But now the quiet was gone. Strange ships flew low above the cliffs, black with jagged wings. They fired beams that melted rock and burned trees. Ethan saw no uniforms, no flags, just destruction. He waited until the sound faded, then moved carefully up the ridge. His comlink was dead. The station too far. He needed high ground. Maybe he could send a signal from the peak. He climbed through the tall grass, careful not to slip. The wind smelled of smoke now. As he reached the edge of the cliff, he heard a sharp sound behind him. A soft thud like wings folding. He turned fast and froze. She stood there. Not human. Not like any creature he had seen in his years on alien worlds. She was tall, with deep green skin that shimmered in the light. Her eyes glowed gold, sharp and aware. Curved horns rose from her head like a crown, and leathery wings folded behind. Her back, her tail moved slowly, tense. Her clothes were made of tough leather, shaped for battle. Her chest rose and fell with quick breaths. Her hands curled at her sides like claws, ready to strike. Ethan didn't move. She didn't speak. They stared at each other as silence fell over the broken hilltop. Finally, she spoke in a language he didn't know, but her voice was soft, not angry. He lifted both hands, palms open. "I don't want to fight," he said gently. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. Then she said a word. One word. Human. It wasn't a question. Ethan nodded slowly. She hissed, not out of hate, but like a warning. Her wings twitched. Ethan glanced at them. One of her wings looked injured. A sharp tear along the membrane, a bit of smoke rising from the edge. It must have happened during the attack. She winced and leaned to the side. Ethan knelt down slowly and reached into his bag. "You're hurt," he said softly, pulling out a small medkit. "Let me help." She stepped back, baring her teeth. Her wing rose slightly, and she hissed again. "I won't harm you," Ethan said. "I fix things. It's all I know." He took out a soft gel wrap and moved one step closer. She didn't stop him this time. Carefully, Ethan touched the edge of her wing. She hissed sharper this time and flinched. But then something changed. Her eyes widened. A deep red flushed across her cheeks. She blinked, looking confused. Ethan paused. "Did I hurt you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked down and then slowly leaned closer. The moment felt strange, heavy. She was still breathing fast, but her tail had relaxed. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw something behind the sharp gaze. Fear, not of him, but of something else. Ethan looked at the sky. Smoke was rising from the far hills. The ships were still out there. And maybe she was running from them too. "Did they attack your people?" he asked. She didn't speak, but her silence told him enough. He placed the gel wrap over the tear in her wing. She let out a soft breath, like a sigh. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked at him again, eyes thoughtful. Then she touched her chest and said, "Sirith." Ethan nodded. "I'm Ethan." Sirith looked at his hand, then touched it with hers. In that moment, it was clear. They didn't speak the same language, but they understood something deeper. Both were caught in a war neither started, both alone. Both trying to survive. A sudden blast echoed from below. Ethan stood quickly and looked down the valley. Sirith growled low, crouched beside him. From the trees, a large beast twice the size of a man charged up the slope, its armor gleaming black and its eyes red like fire. Sirith grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him behind her. Her wings spread wide, despite the pain. Her stance was solid, fierce. Ethan didn't know what this creature was, but he knew one thing. She was going to fight for both of them. Asterisk. The monster was fast, too fast. It ran on 4 thick legs, each one armored with black metal plates. Its mouth opened wide, full of sharp yellow teeth. Steam poured from its nose as it roared. The ground shook under its steps as it climbed the hill toward them. Ethan froze. Sirith. BIDN single quotes T. With a cry that echoed through the valley. She leapt forward, wings spreading wide even though one was still injured. She moved like a shadow, graceful and strong. Her claws slashed the air as she met the beast head dash on. Ethan wanted to help, but he had no weapons. Just a small repair tool and his hands. He could only watch. Sirith jumped, landing hard on the creature's back. It tried to shake her off, but she held tight, wrapping her tail around its thick neck. Her claws ripped into the weak spots between the armor plates. The creature screamed. It turned, crashing into rocks. Sirith was thrown to the ground. Dust exploded into the air. "Get up!" Ethan shouted. The beast turned to her. Its mouth opened. It was ready to bite. Ethan didn't think. He grabbed a thick branch and ran straight toward it. He shouted to distract the beast. It worked. The creature turned toward him. Too close. It charged. Ethan dived to the side as the monster crashed past him. But he wasn't fast enough. Its tail hit him hard, sending him rolling across the dirt. Pain shot through his side. He gasped, trying to breathe. Then came another sound louder than before, a high-pitched cry. Sirith had climbed again onto the beast's back. This time, her claws stabbed straight into its skull. With a final screech, the creature fell. Heavy, lifeless. Sirith dropped beside it, breathing hard. Ethan groaned and sat up. "That was insane," he said. Sirith turned to him. She ran to his side and touched his arm. Her claws gently checked his ribs, his chest, his face. "I'm okay," he said. Even though his side ached badly, Sirith looked at him seriously. Then touched her own chest. Her heartbeat was fast. She was scared, but not for herself. For him. Ethan smiled weakly. "You protected me." She didn't answer, but her wings slowly folded, and she nodded once. They sat quietly for a moment. Wind moved the grass. The valley was silent again, but only for now. Ethan looked around. "That thing was hunting us." Sirith nodded. "Are there more?" She made a small growl and pointed to the sky. Then she raised 4 fingers. "4 more?" Ethan asked. She nodded again. He looked at the dark trail of smoke rising from the distant horizon. "That attack earlier, it wasn't random, was it?" Sirith shook her head. Ethan leaned back against a rock, thinking. "Then we have to move." He stood up slowly, holding his side. "There's an old mining shelter north of here. If we reach it, maybe we can rest. Maybe I can fix the radio." Sirith listened, then stepped close and placed her hand on his side. Her eyes were calm now, full of thought. Then she reached into her small pouch and pulled out a thick leaf covered in silver sap. She crushed it gently and placed it on Ethan's bruise. The pain cooled instantly. Ethan looked at her in surprise. That actually helps." She smiled for the first time. A soft, quiet smile. Then she did something strange. She touched her wing, the injured one, and then held out her hand to him. She wanted him to touch it again. He hesitated. "You sure?" She nodded, but her cheeks flushed red again. Ethan gently laid his fingers on the torn edge of her wing. She shivered slightly, but leaned closer. She looked him in the eye. No more fear. Just something soft and unspoken. Ethan said nothing. Then she took his hand and held it tight. The two of them, alien and human, stood together, broken and bruised, but alive. And something between them had started to grow. Not just trust. Connection. But the moment didn't last. A deep hum echoed across the cliffs. In the distance, dark shapes moved again in the sky. The next wave was coming. Ethan looked at Sci-Rith. She didn't speak, but she nodded. They had to keep moving. Together. Asterisk. The air grew heavy as they moved down the mountain slope. The wind carried the scent of smoke and something worse, burnt metal and blood. Ethan walked with one hand pressed to his side, where the bruise still throbbed. Sirith stayed closer. Golden eyes always scanning the skies. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Every sound mattered now. Every movement could bring danger. The trail curved down into a narrow canyon. Tall rocks on both sides gave some cover. Sirith pointed to the cracks in the cliff's old caves. Good for hiding. Ethan nodded. They stopped just long enough to drink from a small stream and wrap his ribs tighter. We're halfway there. Ethan said softly. Sirith didn't answer, but she touched his arm gently, like saying, "Keep going." Then the sound came, a soft hum, not a ship, not a beast. Voices. Ethan pulled Sirith into the shadows. They crouched low as three figures moved across the canyon floor. They were not human. And not like Sirith either. They were thin, with long pale arms, red eyes, and glowing tech wrapped around their bodies. Their weapons floated beside them, shaped like spinning blades, moving without hands. They moved in perfect silence, scanning the rocks with bright yellow lights. Sirith tensed beside Ethan. He looked at her face. Her jaw was tight. Her hands were clenched. "Who are they?" He whispered. She spoke one word. "Hunters." Ethan stayed still. He could feel her anger. Her body was ready to spring, but she didn't move yet. The hunters stopped. One of them turned toward their cave. Its eyes glowed brighter. Then it stepped forward. Sirith growled low. Ethan grabbed her wrist. "No," he whispered. "Not yet." But it was too late. The hunter raised its weapon. A whirling blade moved toward the cave. Sirith jumped. She landed between Ethan and the hunter just as the blade shot forward. It missed Ethan's head by inches and slammed into the rock. Sirith kicked the hunter in the chest. It flew back, crashing into the canyon wall. The other two hunters reacted fast. One pointed, and the other sent a sharp beam of light straight at Sirith. Ethan rolled out from the cave. He grabbed a broken piece of metal and threw it at the hunter's face. It hit not hard, but enough to throw off its aim. Sirith took the chance. She leapt again, this time using her wings to glide low across the ground. She knocked the second hunter down, claws slicing across its tech armor. The last one ran, but she was faster. Her tail snapped around its leg, pulling it to the ground. In seconds, it was over. Three hunters lay still on the ground. Ethan stood slowly, breathing hard. "Remind me not to make you mad," he said. Sirith didn't smile this time. Her eyes were still dark. She looked down at the hunters, then at the symbol glowing on their gear. She knelt and touched the mark. It shimmered, then faded. Ethan asked, "What does it mean?" She said a word he didn't know. Then, after a pause, she tried again. "Exiles," he frowned. "Exiles," she nodded. Then she spoke another word, slowly. "Betrayers." Understanding hit Ethan like a cold wave. These hunters, they weren't just enemies. They were from her kind. Ones who had turned. Sirith stood and looked away. Her face showed shame, not fear, just pain. Ethan stepped closer. "You fought them, you didn't run. That means something." She didn't answer, but her tail gently wrapped around his leg. For a second, a quiet thank you. They moved quickly after that. No more stopping. By the time they reached the old mining shelter, the sun had started to fall behind the far ridge. The sky turned gold and pink. Shadows stretched across the valley. The shelter was half buried in stone, but still standing. Ethan forced the door open. The lights flickered on, barely working, but enough. They stepped inside. It smelled like dust and oil. Tools, crates, and wires were scattered everywhere. Ethan dropped his bag inside. "We made it." Sirith sat down on a crate. Her shoulders slumped. Her wings still hurt. But she was alive. Ethan walked over to the back room. The old radio console was there, rusted, but maybe fixable. He touched the screen. It flickered. Sirith watched from behind. "I'll try to send a message," he said. "Maybe someone will hear us." She walked to his side and placed a hand on the screen. Then she looked at him and said, "Danger comes." Ethan looked into her eyes. "You mean more are coming?" She nodded, double quotes, "How many?" She didn't speak, but her expression said everything. "Too many." Ethan turned back to the console. "Then we better make this work. And fast." Ethan worked. Fast. The old console sparked once, then flickered to life. Dust covered the screen, but the system still had power. He wiped it clean and searched the controls. The signal was weak, the antenna damaged but not beyond repair. Sirith stood behind him, quiet, alert. Her eyes stayed on the dark entrance to the shelter. She didn't sit. She didn't relax. She could feel something moving in the distance. Ethan rewired the main panel. "Just give me 10 minutes, he said. "I think I can boost the signal." Sirith didn't answer, but she placed a hand on his shoulder. A silent gesture. "I believe in you." Outside, the light was fading fast. Long shadows stretched across the valley. The hills now looked sharp, full of danger. And far off, faint humming sounds returned. Distant but closing. Ethan kept working. Sweat rolled down his face. Come on. Suddenly, the console beeped. He sat up straight. "Got it." The screen blinked. Signal active. He pressed the mic and spoke. "This is Ethan Torres from Earth Outpost 7. I'm stranded near Ridge Sector Delta. Hostiles on the ground. I need extraction. Anyone hear me?" Silence. Then static. Then faint. Crackling. "Copy. Broken. Signal. Identify again." Ethan leaned in. "I repeat, Ethan Torres. Human. Not alone. Enemy units active. Need help." But the signal faded again. Damn it. He hit the console. The screen dimmed. Still. Powered, but barely. Sirith looked at him. Then slowly said, "They may not come." He looked up at her. "I know, but I had to try." A loud thump echoed outside. Both of them froze. Another thump. Closer. Sirith moved fast. She pulled Ethan to his feet and dragged him away from the console. She raised her wing to block the light and pointed to the dark corner behind the crates. Ethan followed. They hid just as the shelter door shook. Metal groaned. The lock broke. The door slammed open. A tall shadow entered the room. Not a beast. Not a hunter. This one was something else. It was humanoid, but bigger than any man. Thick armor covered its body, marked with glowing red veins. Its eyes were dead white. It held a long energy blade, glowing purple. Sirith gasped. Ethan whispered, "What is that?" She said one word, "Warlord." The creature stepped inside slowly. It scanned the room, sniffed the air, then turned toward the console. It touched the wires, then crushed them. Sparks flew. The signal gone. Ethan's heart sank. They were cut off. The warlord looked around again. Then it said something in a low, robotic voice. Ethan didn't understand, but Sirith did. Her body went stiff. What did it say? Ethan whispered. She answered slowly, her voice shaking. "It knows me." The warlord stepped toward their hiding place. Sirith stood up. Ethan grabbed her hand. "No, wait, what are you doing?" She shook her head. "It wants me. You can't fight that thing alone." But she didn't listen. She walked out. Ethan stayed low, heart pounding. The warlord stopped and stared at her. Sirith stood tall, wings half open, one still damaged. They spoke short, hard words. Then, the warlord raised its blade. Ethan couldn't wait. He grabbed a metal rod and jumped out of hiding. "Hey!" The warlord turned, just as Ethan threw the rod. It bounced off the armor. Useless, but it gave Sirith a chance. She flew. The room lit up with energy as her claws hit the warlord's head. They rolled across the floor in a blur of teeth, wings, and metal. Ethan rushed in to help, but the warlord grabbed Cirith and slammed her into the wall. She cried out, "No!" Ethan yelled. He grabbed a broken power core from the floor and smashed it against the warlord's back. It exploded with a flash of light. The warlord stumbled just long enough for Cirith to drive her claws into its throat. With a final growl, it fell dead. Ethan ran to her. "Are you okay?" Cirith was breathing hard. Her shoulder was bleeding, but she nodded slowly. Ethan helped her sit down. She looked at him, her face full of something new. Not just pain, something deeper. "You risked your life," she whispered. "For you," Ethan said softly. She reached out, touched his face, then leaned forward. Her forehead rested against his. A quiet moment. No words, just heat, breath, and the sound of two hearts beating. Then she whispered, "I trust you." Ethan swallowed. "Good, because we're not done yet." He looked at the broken console. They had no signal, but they still had each other, and the night wasn't over. The night was deep now. Outside the shelter, the sky turned dark purple. The stars were hidden behind black clouds, and lightning flashed far off in the distance. The air felt heavy, full of tension. Something big was coming. Even the ground seemed to know. Inside, Ethan wrapped Cirith's shoulder with cloth. Her breathing was calm again, but her body trembled. She had fought with all her strength. She had won. But she was tired, worn. "You need to rest," Ethan whispered. Cirith shook her head. "No time." He sat beside her and held her hand. "We'll find another way." The radio was dead. The warlord was dead too, but not alone. If it had come this far, others would follow, and they had no ship, no backup, no way to run. But Ethan had one idea left. He walked to the supply crates in the back of the shelter. Some were locked, but most were broken open. Inside, he found wires, fuel cells, damaged tools, junk, mostly. But something caught his eye. A signal flare launcher. Old, rusted. But if he could fix it. He sat on the ground and started working. Cirith watched silently. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Finally, Ethan stood up, holding the repaired launcher. "If I fire this into the clouds," he said, "maybe someone in orbit will see it. That's our last shot." Cirith stood too. She looked weak but steady. Together, they stepped out into the cold wind. The mountain ridge was silent. Shadows danced in the distance. Ethan aimed the flare up and pressed the trigger. A sharp click. Nothing. Then dash boom. A bright streak of red fire shot into the sky. It climbed high into the dark clouds and burst into a bright glowing star. Cirith's eyes widened. She whispered, "Beautiful." Ethan smiled. "Let's hope someone's watching." But just as the flare faded, they heard a new sound. A roar. No. More than one. Multiple roars. Growling, echoing, coming fast. Ethan turned. Shapes were moving toward them, fast and low. Not like the hunters. These were something else. Bigger, wilder. Cirith hissed softly. "Shadow." "Beasts." Ethan stepped in front of her. "We stay together." The beasts broke from the trees. 6 of them, maybe 7. Thick black fur, sharp white teeth, glowing eyes. They didn't wait. They charged. Ethan pulled Cirith back into the shelter. He grabbed a pipe and held it like a weapon. "We hold them here." Cirith bared her claws. Her wing opened fully despite the pain. The beasts crashed into the shelter. The fight was chaos. Ethan hit one in the face. Another clawed at his leg. Cirith tore through 2 with wild speed. Her tail whipped like a blade, slicing open fur and flesh. But there were too many. Ethan fell to one knee, blood on his hands. His chest burned. One beast lunged straight at him, but Cirith jumped in front of him. she screamed. The beast's claws tore into her side. No, Ethan yelled. He grabbed a fuel cell and slammed it into the wall. Boom. A fireball ripped through the shelter. Smoke filled the room. Beasts screamed and ran. The rest were dead. The fire faded. Ethan crawled toward Sirith. Stay with me, please. She was bleeding badly. Her eyes fluttered. But when he touched her face, she smiled. You stayed, she whispered. Of course I did, he said. His voice shook. He held her in his arms, rocking slowly, pressing his hand to her wound. The warmth of her skin, the soft beat of her heart, it was all still there. She wasn't gone, not yet. Then, a sound, a soft hum, not from the beasts. From above, a light shone down through the clouds. A ship, human, a rescue ship. Sirith blinked slowly. You called them. Ethan looked up, tears in his eyes. We're saved. The ship lowered fast. A ramp extended. Soldiers ran out. Human voices shouted. Medics rushed forward. Ethan held Sirith tighter. She's with me, he yelled. She saved my life. The medics looked at her with wide eyes. One of them nodded. We'll help her. They lifted her gently. Ethan stood beside her the whole time. The flare had worked, but it wasn't just the signal that saved them. It was Sci-Fi, her courage, her pain, her trust in a stranger, and Ethan's choice to stay by her side, even when it almost killed him. As the ship rose into the sky, Sirith whispered, Your world will not like me. Ethan held her hand tight. They will, he said, because I'll never leave you alone. The rescue ship flew high over the clouds. Inside, the lights were soft, and the hum of engines filled the air. Sirith lay on a medical bed, surrounded by human machines she didn't understand. Her body was weak, but her eyes stayed open. She watched everything. Ethan sat beside her, never leaving her side. The medics had stopped asking questions. At first, they were afraid of her. One soldier even reached for his gun when he saw her claws. But Ethan stood between them and shouted, She's not the enemy, she saved me. That changed everything. Now they gave her clean bandages, medicine, and food. No one smiled at her, but no one pointed weapons either. That was enough for now. Ethan gently brushed a bit of dried blood from her cheek. How are you feeling? Sirith blinked slowly. Tired, but not alone, he smiled. You'll be safe now. She touched his hand. With you, I feel safe. Hours passed. The ship landed on a large space station in orbit. Guards were waiting, but Ethan walked out first, holding Sirith's hand. He looked every officer in the eye. I'll explain everything, he said. But you're not locking her up. The officers hesitated. One of them, an older woman with silver hair, looked at Sirith closely. Then she nodded. We'll listen. They gave Sirith her own medical room. Ethan stayed with her every moment. She healed slowly. Her wings were stronger now. Her skin shone again with its green glow. Her voice was steadier, and her eyes were no longer afraid. But one night, while the station was quiet, she sat by the window and looked at the stars. Ethan joined her. What are you thinking? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, My people may be gone. If the warlords took my lands, I may be the last. Ethan put his arm around her. Then your people live on through you. She looked at him. And if I stay here, among humans? Then you'll have me, he said. And I'll make sure you're never treated like a threat. Her eyes softened. You would do that? Just for me? He smiled. You're not just anything to me. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I never expected this, she whispered. I never trusted humans, but you touched my wing and didn't hurt me. You hissed at me, he chuckled. And then I blushed, she said, smiling faintly. He looked at her face. You saved my life more than once. And you gave me something I never had, she whispered. a reason to live. There was silence between them, but it was warm, full. Later, the commander returned with news. "We've sent ships to the planet," she told them. "Your signal showed us where the attacks came from. We stopped the enemy camp. There are survivors. Some with wings like yours." Sirith's hand shook. "My kind?" The commander nodded. "They're safe, and they asked for you." Tears filled Sirith's eyes. Ethan held her close. "You're not the last." She turned to him, her voice thick. "Come with me." "Anywhere," he said. Weeks later, the shuttle landed back on the green world. Sirith stepped out first, her wings wide and healed. Behind her, Ethan walked with a new strength in his step. The others of her kind came from the trees, wounded, tired, but alive. They saw her, they saw him, and no one attacked. They bowed their heads in silence. Sirith stepped aside and offered her hand to Ethan. In her world, that meant something deeper than words. An invitation. A promise. He took it not as a guest, not as a stranger, but as someone who had earned a place beside her. The wind moved through the trees. Birds sang. The war was not over, but something new had begun. Hope. And in the middle of that broken world stood a girl with wings and a man with no weapons, just a heart strong enough to stay. And she never hissed again when he touched her, only smiled and leaned in closer.